Afternoon. Today is July 17th. Sun's pretty high, but it's cloudy. I'm gonna stare straight at it. Wish I knew exactly what angle that would be, but as it appears, the sun off the horizon. You're squishing your head. I'm doing that with the sun on my fingers. It's horizon. Far off the horizon, about 3.5 inches off the horizon. 4 inches. It definitely works. There's no doubt in my mind that sun gazing is good for you physically and mentally and spiritually. I just saw something about the red light effect. I saw Andrew Huberman talking about the benefits of red light and how it penetrates you and all this nonsense. Red light is the same as any other colored light, any of the spectrum. Like, the way they explain it doesn't make sense. If light is an emission, a particle, then what is the compositional makeup of red light versus it's just a longer wave. That's all it is. It's simple. That's why I'll talk about it, is because I understand the fundamentals. And kids can understand that. Like, light is a wave. Even Einstein said that it was sometimes a wave. No, it's always a wave. And what we need to ask ourselves is, what is it that's waving? If you can understand principle versus attribute, that concept, that's the geometry of a hurricane, and that's the geometry of the universe. That's the geometry of how things come into being. They come into being along the geometry of the golden ratio, extrapolated outward, which forms a spiral. So like if you can look at a magnet. Alright, I don't even want to tell you the details, just generally speaking. Do you remember being a kid and staring at the sun and playing with magnets? What happened to the curiosity? I mean, take the shamanic tendency children have to do things like stare at the sun, which is a shamanic practice, I think. I'm not sure. I don't really know much about it, but I know that the reason it works has something to do with the fact that light is not an emission. It's a wave. And I understand that it's the ether that's waving or pulsing. It's a frequency. I can go into some detail about how Ken Wheeler describes the nature of light as a longitudinal ether perturbation with a transverse component, physical component, follows the right-hand rule. Anyway, just generally, do you remember being curious? I mean, it's like, where did the curiosity go? I mean, the reason I talk about magnets in light is because they work on the same principle, and it's all the same stuff. Everything works the same way and fundamentally is the same thing, which is not a thing. It's a thing that is not nothing. The immaterial. I was just checking out how an AC generator works. It's like you have a magnetic field and you pass a coil around, and the flux, the lines of force gets funneled into electrons. No, that's what they're saying. The wire creates magnetic flux in the form of lines of force. These lines of force get the wire, you can conduct them along a wire, and I guess magically they become electrons. It's like if you try to look up things that magnets do, like geomagnetic precession, if you try to look up the definition, it just gives you a bunch of math. And it becomes apparent that they don't know what it is and what's causing it. You can't explain it with, you can only describe it with mathematics. I'm not saying the mathematics is wrong, but it doesn't tell you what it is. And it's just a bunch of garbage designed, I suppose, to confuse people. I mean, with an explanation like that, I remember when I was young and they're telling me, they're like, yeah, electric lines of force and all this stuff. I was like, well, what are lines of force made of? What's magnetic flux? Is it electrons? But it's not. There's no such thing. I didn't know that then. I just assumed that I didn't understand, that I wasn't smart enough to understand. And I think a lot of us fell victim to that. We just forget to revisit those things. We get busy with life, and we don't have time to remember giving up our curiosity because of the absolutely asinine explanations they gave us on how magnets work and what light is. It's like religion. I mean, it's like some of my favorite people are religious people because it gives you a wonderful code of conduct and values and things like that. I love Christian values and all that, but and other values of other religions as well. But it doesn't explain anything. It relies on belief. And there's something better. I mean, before all these religions, they had the Pythagoreans. And so that's what I'm talking about, y'all, is Pythagoreanism. It's Greek stuff. Like, there's reasons they chose to study music and geometry and astrology, I don't know much about astrology and all that stuff, but I have seen it work. We have to remain curious because that comes from God. That's where the answers lie. And there are answers. I'm realizing it's like I've been searching. And I think somehow I was able to not care about my reputation that much. Only what mattered to me. Like, as I got older, into my 30s and stuff, I just, I got opportunities to be an adult, I guess. And it just wasn't right for me because it always required some kind of trade-off. And I think maybe it ultimately came down to the fact that I wouldn't be able to be in the headspace that I wanted to be. It's like, you gotta be careful with that. Not your environment, like your job and all that stuff. And I'm so glad that I continued to search, because before religion was philosophy. and the Greek philosophy, and the Persian, and the Indian, and the Egyptian to some extent, but really the Greeks wrote it down for us better than anyone, I think. I mean, it's the most recent version. And, who knows who they got it from, too, but, those guys, religion is like a bastardization, a misunderstanding of Pythagoreanism, like the Trinity. That's Pythagorean. That's the origin. And it's also part of other cultures expressed differently. It's describing physics. It's describing the relationship between consciousness and the divine. It's like you can express it. It's physics. That's why philosophy is important. You don't have, we supposed that philosophy was different from religion, which was different from science. And you have this over there and that over there, and it's not that way. Everything is unified, simply. You don't need a big, long calculator. It's like we have to remain curious, because it's the only way to protect yourself from mind viruses. Those are real. Oh my God. Like quantum relativity, it's a mind virus, and don't take my word for it. That's not my word. That's what the guys that built the modern world, that's what they said. Was it Stan Metz or Tesla? One of those guys got their books. And I realize now that people don't read. I mean, it's just epiphany after epiphany lately, and part of it's just, it's a recipe. I've finally had the time to let my mind go where it wanted, to some extent. And it's the best thing ever. It's pure faith. I mean, I have faith now, like stronger than a mustard seed, for sure. It's huge. It's like knowledge. I don't even call it faith. It's like I understand the geometry of the golden ratio. And what is a ratio? It's also you can convert a ratio into a geometric shape. A ratio can be expressed as a frequency or as a number. But what's a number? There's no numbers in nature. What does a ratio express? And so things come into being along the golden ratio because there's no resistance because of its incommensurability. It's eternal. It's the only geometry that has a very particular shape, and this is known by mathematicians, where if you take a little piece of the corner of it, that it's self-similar to the whole, has the same proportionality as the whole. There's no other geometric structure that expresses self-similarity, and that's the golden ratio. And it can be expressed as an angle, as a number, as a fraction, or as a frequency. I don't know what is that frequency? Dang, I got me thinking, is it the Schumann resonance? Ooh. That's an interesting topic of discussion too, the Schumann resonance. The disparity of the difference. The disparity of the north versus south magnetic pole of the Earth. It's like a ripple through the ether, which to me suggests vector. That the ether is, that the Earth is, it's like a vector wind or something. No, that's not got so much studying to do, so much thinking. I've had some revelations, like where peace is, like where it exists. It's in the middle of a hurricane. It's like being in the middle of the storm, and peace is always moving. It's always stationary. But if you know which direction storms move, if you pay attention, then maybe you can stay in the middle of the hurricane. Just all this chaos going around you, and you're locked in, baby. Peaceful. But if you're curious enough, there are answers. Because the utility of knowing that there's no light coming out of the sun, like the light is a wave and not a particle, and understanding the distinction, and is that there's implications. I mean, there's in our life, it means that the whole kit and caboodle is one giant field. We're connected. I mean, we've seen that. We've all seen that in our psychedelic journeys. We just didn't know what it means. And it's like through philosophy, through doing nothing but reading and thinking, I've gotten answers to those visions that I had when I was a kid. Like visions that I never let go. Like when I was a kid, I got a vision of like the whole universe being like a baby in a net. And if you cause too much trouble, you're cutting pieces of the net. If you cut enough pieces of the net, the baby falls out. And like that's like civilization collapsing or something like that. Just it turns out that's like a archetype from like India, ancient India, stuff like that. And it stuck with me, and I didn't know why, but now I know the mechanism by which we are all connected, and it's through ether. And I can't begin to tell you, the nature of the programmer. I'm just saying that it's like, I understand the concept of the anti-material and it being source, which is source. Source is the immaterial. Everything is manifest. Things come from nothing. So we're all connected and stuff comes from nothing. So it's like the possibilities are endless because we come from nothing. So anything can be. We're pure potential. It's not a terrible world until we decide to make it one, or decide that it's one. We can even make pain our friend if we do the work. But that's the problem, is people don't want to do the work. So those are two really wonderful implications. So it's like, if we're all connected, then ultimately it's like it makes forgiveness possible and necessary. Excuse me. You have to do it. And I knew that from my heart, but I didn't know that intellectually. And when the two combine, it's like you're creating harmonic resonance when you pay attention, when you start singing in the room, you look for that note. And when it starts bouncing back to you, you're living in rhythm, in line, in frequency with God. So, again, there's no light coming out of the sun, so everything's waving. We're light beings. Everything's composed of light. That's basically a fact now, because you probably don't know this, but recently they let it out that they put two high-powered lasers together. The two lasers form hydrogen. They've observed hydrogen jets coming out of supermassive black holes, ejected out. That's what they're emitting, is hydrogen. Hydrogen is the fundamental particle that makes everything go. It's what we're all built of. And so that explains what things are simply. Hydrogen is high energy light, closed circuit light. We're composed of hydrogen and carbon and a couple other things. We're composed of light. And light's not an emission, it's a wave. So When you hear all the New Agers talking about raising your vibration, that's not completely accurate, but it's not inaccurate either. You're not raising, yeah, I guess you are raising, maybe it's accurate. I mean, you're trying to match God's vibration. Like, because it's like a spiritual vibration, not, I mean, because we're vibrating so fast that a wave goes up and down. A very strong wave goes even faster. But this wave, hydrogen is, the wave is going so freaking fast that it won't compress and rarefact anymore. It becomes a closed loop. It turns on itself. It's so powerful. And so it doesn't propagate anymore. It becomes, for all intent and purposes, it becomes stationary. We're composed not only of light, but extremely high-powered light, which is not an emission. So we're vibrating. It means that everything is connected through fields and interactive actions of fields. Forgiveness is possible. When I first asked for forgiveness, and there was someone very close to me in my life that I did not love enough, and I asked to forgive that person and myself and just everything. Like, I didn't feel it, but I was tired of the feeling that it was giving me. It's like a drug, like you're just ready to kick, you know, the feelings of resentment and all this stuff. I had read about how to reprogram your brain, so I just started just saying it in my mind and repeating like the Lord's Prayer and concentrating on the part about forgiveness, really concentrating on the whole thing and really doubling down on the forgiveness part. Because I knew that, you know, neurogeneration, like if you just repeat it, that's all you got to do. If you repeat it, it gets stuck in your head and eventually you believe it. But first you got to want it. And that part, what is that? That's not our, it's that spark, man. That's the spark, I guess. But I didn't want it. I wasn't there yet. And now I have it, is what I'm saying. It's years. It took years. But it was slow progress, and now it has the geometry of a storm. Because this is spiritual work. It has a field. It's generating perturbation, ether perturbation. And so it was like a storm. I mean, it was just like a little bit at first for a long time. And then like a storm, as you get into the middle of the storm, it's just kind of whatever. And then and then the worst part is right before you get to the peace. And that's the way it was. If winds start going, it really starts going. And there's a logarithmic spiral on the storm and the way it grows in intensity. And I recognize it, and I'm getting real close to breaking through to the peaceful side. I'm not psychic. I just recognize the spiritual geometry. It's like, and I understand that time isn't a fabric along with space. There's no time space there's no, probably not, I don't think there's any other dimensions. There's just dimensionality and anti-dimensionality, or heaven. And anyway, that's a use. I mean, that's a practical use of the philosophy, is recognizing that I'm making, like I'm trying to find peace with this person, who's close to me. And it's hard, and no man has ever done it. Not really. And I have to do it. I have to, because it's like we're stuck on this island or something, and the storm's coming, and there's no avoiding it, so I'm just trying to get to like the leeward side, down on the other side of the mountain, you know. I don't want to be where the storms are the worst, and because I know time and space aren't really a thing, it's not that I'm psychic, I recognize the pattern, that's all. And barring unforeseen catastrophic consequence or just whatever, any kind of interruption because other fields interact. So, but if this pattern, right, this perturbation, if this vibration, this emanation from no thing, from the immaterial, from heaven, if it's that, then yeah, if it's allowed to continue on its course, then you can make predictions, if not prophecies. It's just about recognizing, and then, so if you understand astrology, you understand geometry, and you understand music. I'm a Pythagorean. I'm a baby boy Pythagorean. I probably have the understanding of like a 14-year-old in the Greek days. So if anybody thinks just to put things into context, I'm making these videos. Philosophy is not to sound smart. If you think that, you're probably doing some serious projection, because the point of it is to get away from ego. Absolutely, that's the point. You have to, because it'll make you miserable. It'll keep you alive. You need it. It's not evil, but you can't let it dominate your life and make all your decisions for you. And that's what most of us are doing. Some people act from love. You put your family first or something like that, ahead of your own needs, and you sacrifice. Keep doing that. We all know that, but still, we all suffer from narcissism and separation anxiety and FOMO, and all that stuff is gone. No, I still have like anxiety, sure, absolutely, apprehension and stuff like that, and fear, absolutely. I'm not saying, but I'm a lot better. I had to. I was not doing well. This philosophy is, I don't have to trust in a code of conduct for my behavior. I see it for things for what they are, and as far as things can be seen and known. And that's a relief, and I'm trying to share that. Alright. Peace out, one love. Definitely talk to y'all later. Good night.